I see the future, the new black and brown elite. The kids who have always had something to prove, all grown up, exceptional, brilliant, intimidating just by virtue of being different. Grown long before they were even grown. And that determination showing in their eyes, illuminated in their skin. We won't always have to be the new kids answering every tone-deaf question that gets thrown at us. We're still so new here. We have a blank slate. We are the blank slate. We decide what culture and ideas and life we breathe into our new home. I'm excited to see what that will be.
Maina, I know you're the type of person who likes the outdoors, so I had to bring you outside. So, I mean, how have you been? How's everything been for you?
Yeah, it's been really good. I think, you know, a lot of creatives have had a really rough time in the last 2 years. I guess for me, having all of that downtime was actually a really good thing for me in my music, in my creativity.
Yeah.
And I guess in the way that I work harder at being mentally and spiritually aligned, kind of comes through, you know, ingesting more art, ingesting more music, watching lots of films.
Okay.
And I guess compartmentalizing what's important, you know?
Yeah. I mean, is it a good thing that you're staying inside your head? Is that something that helps you? Is that something that's a negative?
That's a good question, because it's a little bit of both, you know? You don't want to be too in your head.
Yeah.
You want to spend most of your time in your feeling. That's what I think anyway.
In your feelings? Yeah, nah, that's what
you know what I mean?
I can't do that.
You can't do that?
I can't, I'm not in the feelings type.
You're in your head?
Yeah, I'm in my head. I'm all in my head.
So what, when you're feeling something, do you intellectualize it?
I don't know. I'm just, at this point in my life, I'm just not in my feelings like that.
You're not in your feelings?
I'm not.
Okay.
But I do understand over the last, especially during COVID and the pandemic and being inside, I've definitely been in my head a lot more. Which could be, which was a good thing, and I guess sometimes it could be a negative thing in that sense. So
absolutely.
If I feel something, I just sort of act on it straight away. Yeah. So Nazra versus Maina.
Yes.
How do you separate your personal life and I guess your artist or musical life?
Well, you know, I feel like I'm actually quite big on, you know, my privacy. I'm not the kind of person to like put my personal life out there for everybody to consume.
Yeah.
And I've kind of had that intention from like the get-go. So, to be honest, when I think of Maina Doe and that project, you know, it's all the different characters I assume for the music and for the, I guess, environment and stories and the world that I'm trying to create. And then when I'm just me, I'm just Nasra, that shit's for me, you know what I mean? Like, it's not for anyone else.
Is it hard? Because obviously, like, you know, even though, you know, you try to keep, you know, a separate lifestyle to your personal and your personal life, or personal and work life, you know, obviously you have people who want to be engaged with you, people who follow your music, people who think you're cool and obviously, you know, want to be involved with you. Yeah. How do you create sort of that space?
Well, it's sometimes kind of hard because, you know, I often feel like I do have to put parts of myself out there so that people know who I am.
Yeah.
But I'm really quite choosy about what I put out there, just so that there is a sense of closeness and I am connecting with people. And, you know, when people message me and I don't know them, I'll still talk to them.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of stuff. And even if I go to a show, like, I'll always give my time to people. But, you know, there are just a lot of aspects of my personal life that I feel like I want to keep to myself.
Yeah.
But I'll be really out there with, like, a lot of my opinions at the same time, for example, because that's not necessarily my personal life, you know?
Yeah, I hear that.
That's, like, something I feel like needs to be said.
Yeah.
So it's a fine balance, and everyone's got their own kind of, like, way to navigate that.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
You know?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, man. I call that being like an introverted extrovert, if that's like if that's a thing.
What about you? Do you just like
I'm loud, man. I just keep it 100. Like, I am who I am. I'm like a human being.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna make like a ton of mistakes, a fuckload of mistakes, but
no,
I am who I am. Yeah, look, I am who I am. I live my life. I try to be myself. But yeah, I think I'm pretty vocal. But I do understand what you're talking about, especially when you talk about your private life. There's certain things that it's not from the internet, and it's okay. It's cool for something not to be for the internet. Some things that you know, it's your private life.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how I feel, you know, even before I was like performing and all that kind of stuff, like I was always quite choosy about what I share anyway. Yeah. And it makes me feel, I guess, like I've got some sort of control.
Over your situation?
Over the situation, you know? Yeah. And as things get, you know, bigger and bigger, obviously, I still want to maintain like a level of privacy. And I think, you know, that's what makes me feel good.
Yeah. So I know you talked a little bit about community and shows. So, you know, as your peers grow and yourself start to grow, what are some of the changes you would like to see in your community and, you know, I guess the industry and whole, whether that be music, and just entertainment. Let's just say entertainment as a whole.
Just as a whole.
Yeah, what sort of things would you like to see change?
Oh, there's a few things, you know, like I do think that there's a few spaces that are kind of non-existent for POC and black artists specifically. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of spaces that, you know, don't necessarily cater or give opportunity to POC and black people who are creatives. And I do feel like at this point, we do have to start thinking about creating our own spaces that are going to give a platform that focuses on, you know, POC and black people. And that's not to say that, you know, we're going to exclude everybody else, but it just means that it's a direct, concise effort and focus into, you know, shining the light on us as a collective.
Yeah, and I think, look, I agree with you. I think like you were saying, this is a blank canvas, so you know we are at the start, and it isn't easy for, you know, people who are first generational immigrants to raise the capital to start a venue. But that being said, it's extremely necessary, and you know there's a lot of people who are making great steps in doing that. But you know, I definitely like the thinking that you have, just in terms of you got to start doing for your own.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's going to get very long. I think the thinking that you have is extremely necessary because, like I said, it's all a cycle, and eventually people have to go out and take that step, or we're just going to be complaining, and that's what it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And you know, like I said, it's great that people are talking about it, and you do have to be vocal. But at the end of the day, you know, this is the economy that we live in, and eventually, you know, people have to start to create their own.
That's it, and it's not easy, but it takes time, it takes focus, it takes a lot of attention. But if we start thinking about it now, you know, maybe in a few years or whatever, then it can start being a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I like that. That's definitely where we're going. Chaos. That's crazy. We're talking about some chaos.
Just, you know, go with the wind sometimes. Do some spontaneous shit. Like, you need that. You know, that's where all the juice comes from. That's where all the sauce comes from.
All right, what's up, beautiful people? Welcome to Denoftruth Den Sessions, brought to you by JD Sports. So, Maina, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Look, Maina, I think that just following you, I know a little bit about your background, but I think your background is pretty interesting. So talk to us a little bit about where you're from, and I guess sort of your immigrant story. How did you come to Australia and how long have you been here?
So my mum is a Somali woman.
Okay.
Shout out to the East Africans. She was living in Kenya and met my dad. They kind of flew away to Indonesia for a while and had me and my brother. She migrated to Australia from Indonesia, and she was kind of separated from us for like a few years, and then we finally came here when I was like 7 or 8. And that's kind of how I ended up here.
It's always interesting talking to people who have migrated to Australia, because regardless of where you're from, there's always a lot of interesting similarities.
Yeah,
so
that's
how
right.
was it for you when you first came to Australia? What were some of the things that you faced?
That's actually, yeah, you know what? Like, I came to Australia and it was really cold at the time because it was like winter, and I came from a real tropical climate, so it was always hot and humid and like, you know, beach vibes. And then I came here and I remember being really grumpy. I was a small child and I was like mad grumpy because it was cold and it was raining, it was middle of winter. And I had a culture shock because from where I lived in Indonesia, it was just like a really like, you know, like chaotic kind of place. Like you had buskers on the street and like magicians, and you know, people always trying to sell you stuff, and there were musicians on the street. Like it was like, it was chaotic, but in the most beautiful way, you know?
Yeah.
And that tends to happen a lot in like places that are really condensed and like heavily populated. And then I came here and everything was so rigid.
Rigid, okay.
In comparison, you know? So I was like, why is everyone wearing the same thing? Why is, you know, where are all the kids on the street? Like it confused me. But yeah, that was kind of my first like hit of like coming here to Australia. And it's kind of crazy because you're like, you could, you know, be a corporate black man with like a normal job and walk down the street, and what the response, the immediate automatic response is often that of like people thinking that this black man's intimidating, but for what, you know?
Yes, I sort of want to refer back to your poem, right? And there was one part of the poem that said, intimidating by virtue of being different, right? So that's why I wanted to ask you that. So can you please expand on that, and what did you mean when you said that? Because I think that a lot of us can sort of relate to that, you know, especially being different. I know for myself, I definitely relate to that as well, coming to Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you know, it's one of those things, right, where people are like scared of what they don't know, just generally speaking.
Yeah.
I think in that time, like super early 2000s especially, the cultural exposure that people had to, you know, black people or people outside of, you know, the standard Australian was very little. And so you went anywhere and it was either curiosity or intimidation often, and that's kind of only because you're different.
Interesting.
Just on site, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Also in the poem, the large part that I want to refer back to is a part, and you said this twice, about being a blank canvas, right? And I think because everything is so early, you know, this interview is going to be an example for what something's going to look like before, and it's going to show what it's going to look like after, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I want you to sort of expound on that. What did you mean by a blank canvas? Were you more so referring to that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not a completely blank canvas because obviously, like, there are some immigrants that have been here for generations and generations. But I think generally, like with, you know, African Australians, like we haven't been here that long in comparison to, you know, a lot of immigrant groups. And that comes with, you know, its own set of challenges, obviously. But I also think that that's a really exciting thing, you know what I'm saying? Because it really does mean that we can paint our own picture at this point. You know, our cultural references for such a long time has been, you know, cultural references of black people from America or the UK or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? But this really is like the prime time, I think, for us to kind of hone in and just like create our own identity and like collectively kind of pursue that and push that. And yeah, that's what I mean by blank canvas. Like it's all free game at this point. Like let's come up with some shit, you know, let's make it a thing.
Yeah. Nah, you touched on that great. That was a great point. So now just to switch gears just a little bit, talk to me a little bit about some of your music influences. Who are some of your music influences, and talk to me, like, who are some of your favorite artists right now? Besides yourself.
Right now, I'm really loving Tyler the Creator right now. I stopped listening to him for a little bit, but I'm really loving what he's doing with the whole like Golf the Fleur thing.
Why's that? What do you love? What do you love about him?
It's just so dope. Like he's so, you know, his own person. You listen to that album that he came out with, and it's really unique. Like he doesn't sound like anybody else, you know, but it still slaps.
Yeah,
it's still relevant.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of Salt.
Okay. I like Salt.
Band.
Yes.
Yeah, they're good, right?
Yeah, they're good.
Listening to a lot of Brent. I don't know. My girls are like, you listen to Brent because you toxic? I'm like, no. I just, he's just got a really good voice. Fuck. And who else do I listen to? I'm really liking West Side Gun. Yeah, that's probably my top artist right now.
You know, you've said that, you know, being in lockdown was quite a stressful time, quite a time where, you know, you've had a lot of time in your mind, in your head, a lot of time to think. So during that period of time, I guess, how did you find yourself as an artist? And, you know, how did that affect your identity?
Like, when you're on the go, 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 go all the time, you're kind of like chasing your own tail, you know, in so many ways. And this time that we've had to kind of slow down, kind of ingest more art and all of that, it's so good for you. It's so good for you. Okay. It's good for, you know, really finding out what's important to you, what makes you tick, what, you know, you think sounds good, looks good, because that's all you have to do. But you know, there are also like the time, the slowing down of everything, and not having a really active kind of period in my career. It definitely like brought up a lot of like worth things. For example, I think I was the kind of person who really ties like my sense of purpose in the world to what I'm doing in my career and in my music. And now maybe I've kind of come out from that and feel more like what I do is an extension of myself, not who I actually am. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So how have you kept your energy and I guess your spirit up during this period of time? What sort of things have you been consuming, you know, just to make sure that you're, you know, spiritually aligned, like I said before?
There's so many, I have like very specific routines, like in the morning.
Break them down, we need this.
Wake up, stretch.
And
then I meditate every single day, no fail. If I don't do that, I definitely feel less grounded and all that shit. I know it's corny, but it is what it is. I always like to kind of be really intentional about how I take care of myself. Like, I take time out for myself when I need to. My manager's real big on me, like, scheduling in me days. So if I have like a really intense, you know, weeks or whatever, she's like, no, okay, this day you've got to have a me day. And in those me days, like, I just go back to the basics, you know, I take care of myself, I pamper myself, I eat good, I rest. And outside of the routine things that I do, I think it's really important as an artist to like properly like welcome in some chaos in their lives.
What do you mean by some chaos? That's crazy. What are you talking about, some chaos?
Just, you know, just like go with the wind sometimes, do some spontaneous shit. Like it's good, you need that, you know? That's where all the juice comes from, that's where all the sauce comes from. But yeah, no, a little bit of chaos is super important because that's how life works anyway. So you can't be going through being like, this is my routine and I gotta all the time. Like sometimes you just gotta leave things blank and go with the wind and just see what happens, you know, wing shit, I don't know. It's important.
I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks
I want to thank you for coming out here, being patient. It's been a crazy year, but you know, I really appreciate this conversation. And like I said, I think there's a lot of people can gain from this, especially emerging artists. And yeah, I think that's cool.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Cool.